Welcome to the weekly chart wrap-up. First up, Palantir. As we can see, it's had an amazing week. It's had a very nice reaction to this back test, and now using it as support. It's popped straight back up to this golden Fibonacci level, which was previous resistance here. This is going to be a tough one for us to crack through. We have stored up some energy, but a lot of that has been used in this initial move, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a bit of a pullback here. We'll take a look at the options interest after and see what the market's thinking in regards to that. And what else is there to look at the daily? We are approaching oversold levels slightly here. Sorry, overbought. But banker flow still seems pretty good, and institutions are still accumulating even at this level on the daily. If we swap to the weekly, just sort out the chart a bit so you can see it a little bit better. Does give us more of a bullish outlook on the month. Pretty much every week was bullish on this stock. Institutions still accumulating, so this has been really nice to see, especially from oversold conditions on the MACD X+. Flow has only just really started to get bullish again on here, so we could have more upside, though I would really ideally like to see a little bit of hesitation on this level. I don't like it when it smashes straight through most of the time. That said, if we do manage to smash through and then have a little bit of a pullback, getting up to this $30 area shouldn't be much of a problem. The only concern still with Palantir is prices getting a bit rich for the underlying fundamentals. We do have earnings coming up. I don't know if the date's been confirmed, but on here it's scheduled for Monday the 5th of August, so about a month away. Obviously, that means the fundamentals could improve, so it could grow into that valuation a little bit there. But overall, really happy with this stock. I wish it had stayed more in this blue zone here where I was going to buy more, but snooze you lose, I guess. I'm happy I've got a considerable weighting back after the issue I had on eToro there. Taking a look at the open options interest for Palantir, the shorter dated ones, we can see there's a lot of bets going on here, a lot of resistance and support. It makes me think we probably are likely to get some sort of pullback here. At least 28 seems to be the top. Move these out of the way so you can see it a bit easier. So there's a lot of interest in these prices. Downside support is at 25, probably a little bit lower than I would put support in. I'd probably go more 26 area for a pullback. A little bit further out for the rest of the month doesn't look too dissimilar, although there's a bit of a widening in areas here. As I mentioned earlier in the video, 30 as well does look like it's going to be the short-term resistance point on this one. Obviously, these levels aren't the law. If we do break over them, it tends to be quite a decent move. We've seen that so far with Tesla. That's had a huge break of those levels. And if we stretch this out a little bit to January 25 for my long-dated look, when it loads, we can see 30 is still a level, and then upwards is 40. Next up, we've got SoFi. Not much has changed really. We're still pretty range bound here, only really hovering between 660 and a low of 625, so it's pretty tight range. We are getting to the pinnacle on this pattern here. It would be quite bizarre for this to slam down any lower. I think the price is now getting stupid a little bit on this one. Happy to take any cheap shares anyone wants to sell me on this one though. I am getting a bit overweight, but I don't mind buying more if it comes to it. I just wanted to remind everyone that this is kind of painted with the PayPal bad sentiment. Fintech is garbage brush at the moment. I do think that will change. It's most likely not going to happen until rates lower, which at the minute is being priced in for September, so we'll have to see how that goes. Overall, RSI is pretty low. Institutions have been not really in a position to accumulate like we like to see. Retail still the majority on this one. Flow's not really doing much on the daily. Let's take a look at the weekly. Again, one thing I wanted to point out was that every time we did get one of these patterns, SoFi is very good at taking its correct measured move, which has meant that it's been quite nice to swing trade. So the actual, if we do break out higher from this pattern, the target would be this $9.50, $10 area, which a lot of people think is probably closer to more fair value for this company. The weekly, we did have this death cross. It's still active. Flow's not really doing much. It's not getting worse, but it's not getting better. So it's just kind of in no man's land. Every indicator is just saying not much exciting happening here. If it does continue to sell off, I will buy more. My ideal waiting for this is about 10%. I think I'm a little under that right now, but I'm pretty happy overall. SoFi opens options interest. We can see there's a lot of resistance here at level 7 and support at 650. Like we talked about earlier, there's going to be more ranging happening here in these levels. Probably going to look very similar in the immediate future. I expect it to change further out when we look at the long dates though. Here we go to the end of the month. Pretty much locked in these zones, nothing exciting happening. However, when we look out to the end of 25, sorry, the start of 25, should I say, we can see that these topside targets are starting to get a bit higher. This just confirms my expectation that not much is going to happen until after rates, as the timelines for that do match up pretty well. And June 26, we see again the same thing here. Hardly anyone betting further out that this is going to see more downside. So as a long-term investment, this one's definitely great. On to Tesla, we can see it's had a hell of a move this last month. This was bound to happen given how bad sentiment is. It was bound to blow its top. All it needed was some slightly not awful news and it was off to the races here. So many people whinging that this is not fair. But if you're looking at the fundamentals of the company, this is absolutely fair and it's only up, really. Obviously, we could have pullbacks along the way, but I don't see us ever getting lower than 140. That would be crazy, in my opinion. It has, at these levels, completed its measured move from this little head and shoulders here. Shoulder, head, shoulder. It's just, I did expect it to pull back at this level here, but it smashed through it. I have expected it to pull back here at this measured move, but it's had a bit of a wick down and then shot back up, so who knows, there could be more upside on this one. The RSI is a little bit overbought, and the MACDX institutions have just been piling on this. Vangerflow looks good too, so for all intents and purposes, this looks very bullish on the daily. But we do need pullbacks, people. As much as we all want price to keep going up and up and up, it wouldn't surprise me if we had a little move back down to this level and then back up again. That said, sentiment has really changed here, so we could keep going up and up. People are really wanting to get a piece of this pie as the growth now that they're seeing is huge, so the potential is pretty massive. I've been really excited about the energy sector numbers that we've seen as well. Not many people talking about that, as everyone else seems to be focusing on other stuff lately. I think I'll try and put a little news post on my website about that if you want to go check it out at some point. It's not up there yet, but hopefully in the next few days, it's definitely something I want to talk about. And on the weekly, that is a boner candle, people. That is what we want to see on crypto, but we're not getting it because Mt. Gox and Germany suck, although I have seen some news that Germany is going to buy back. Not too much to say. I did have a swing trade here. I closed it thinking that we'd get some downside again, but damn, sometimes it's good to be wrong. The long term, I don't really want to sell any of my shares in the immediate future. We've just got a golden cross, so the trend here is bullish. People don't expect to get these cheap prices again. Any pullback you get is a good point to get in on this one. Bullish flows, love it. The options market for Tesla is a little bit interesting. Obviously, we've popped over this resistance level here, which is probably what's caused this wick action here. This dip's just been gobbled back up. The downside for the market is support is really scattered everywhere. It's just kind of pot shots going on, but nothing with really strong conviction. So I don't think there's going to be too much downside on this one. We will get the kind of trend traders that want to see some relief on here that will short this. Might see a bit more of that coming in the week. But to the upside, I mean, any move above this could go anywhere. There's not really any resistance above it to say a little bit 300. No, it could get to 300. Who knows? Stranger things have happened. A little further out, we start to see a lot more coming in here. This tells me, looking at this, that the market wants a bit of a breather here. So I'm 80% sure that's going to happen, but that's not financial advice. Make your own plan. Obviously, that cools off a bit towards the end of the month, so I don't think it's going to be a lengthy pullback. I think it's a little bit of a break and then back up to the upside. Further out, something did happen interesting. The long dated stuff, the targets have changed quite substantially. To the upside, 300 and 400 for the most part, although we are seeing a lot here. So there's still a lot of worry, so we shall see. I think it was pretty much the same for 26 as well. Although a lot more bullish. Look at the size of these stacks for 300 and 400. Next, PayPal. The chart's pretty much still in the basing pattern. I got really excited here thinking this is it, guys. We're going to gap fill this and get the hell out of Dodge. But it appears not that X News really slapped this one back down. It's still selling off from that and on FinTech being crap, basically. So overall, this chart gets a rating. We got the death cross here that's still active, although the moving averages aren't separating further. So I think eventually that one will close without much more downside. The price per share on this is still a joke, really. This volume shelf is giving us a nice little bit of support here and this previous resistance. The banker flow did give us a golden bar buy signal. Historically, these have been pretty decent on here for the most part. But like with SoFi, I don't think much is going to happen with this until it's rate cut time. On the weekly, still a basing pattern. It's just boring. There's not much exciting to talk about. The fundamentals of this company is why I'm in it, and they are just improving at an immense pace. The new CEO is doing wonders. Given some more time in tenure, I think the rest of the market will start seeing this as well. Options open interest for PayPal. See, we had a really strong support here, which provided us that little bounce up. A lot more people seem to want this long. Obviously, we can see some highs here at 75.80. Not much support down here. Definitely, there's more of a bullish sentiment for the big boys in this one, at least the options market. If we take a look out to 25 next year, I think we might have to zoom out to find some targets on this one. There we go. Here we can see hardly any interest in the lower area for further out a year, 140, 145. Fantastic to see the forward-looking market really see some upside for this one. My initial target to be all out of this is 100 still. I'm pretty overweight. I don't want to buy any more, but I also don't currently see this as a long-term hold. Given the changes the new CEO is making with the ads and stuff, it's possible my long-term holding might change, although I don't expect it to stay at a 10% weighting. Something more like 5% might be more suitable when it gets past this 100 target. 26. Again, the target's come down a little bit. Not really much to say there. It could change. I don't know if it's just because this chart doesn't seem to go higher. It's a bit weird, so we'll have to wait and see. Next up to bat, we've got HOOD. I've been really surprised with HOOD this week, given the massive drop we've had in crypto. Normally, HOOD's kind of correlated. It's previously been a proxy trade. I think all of the finance stuff they've got going on with all the new products they're launching has really started to differentiate this one. They have stolen a little bit of SoFi's thunder, but they do go after slightly different markets here. HOOD's obviously very focused on the retail investor. SoFi wants to go for the bigger fish, really, with the bigger accounts, not really the same clientele, so they're a little bit different. We have this nice little flag pattern coming here. A break to the upside here would get it on the approach to my top target for a nice trim. I'll just move this down a little bit if I can. My next target is the 30-32 area. It's cooled off a little bit. It's been nice to see it pull back towards the bull market band at this volume shelf, just so it doesn't get too overheated. The last thing you want is for something to go up so hard and fast that it has to pull back hard and fast. You want it to kind of a give and take, an ebb and flow kind of situation. A good uptrend is something that doesn't go parabolic. It goes diagonal, a nice gradient. And this is perfect, really. This is exactly what you want to see, provided it doesn't break down to the downside, of course. But institutions still holding quite large positions here. The RSI is pretty neutral, so we do have some scope for some good upside. Banker flow is pretty much flat and neutral as well. But on the weekly, it still looks really bullish, even if we put in a little trend line here. It's still within the long-term upside trend. Institutions still heavily on board here. RSI is a little bit hot, but it can go higher. We've seen there historically that we did pop higher. So a bit more upside. We could get to this next fib and then cool off a little more. Options market for Hood. We've got resistance at 25 and support at 21. Pretty tight range coming here. Obviously, people were expecting to see these get into a pinch position. And if we go a little bit further out, we should see that widen. Yeah, so people thinking that's going to widen into a larger move. Seeing some here at 30 and 34. 25 is the next resistance level there, with some support way down here. Seems like it's more volume to the upside, which we like, seeing as we are long on this one. If we put this out to 25, if I can find it, the price targets don't really transition well to the longer time frame. I think this is probably because the new products Hood is offering, on the face of it, seem quite risky. A lot of the market's waiting to see the next few quarters and how that goes, and to see if the access for everyone kind of idea that they've got works. It's 50-50 for me right now. It's hard to picture it without having more numbers to model out with, so we'll see how that goes. Just quickly show you 26 as well. It's probably more of the same. Yeah, more of the same. So still, the long term on this one's a bit unsure, but the short term seems pretty happy over the next few quarters. CleanSpark, as you can see, still a Bitcoin proxy, so that dump we had in Bitcoin has sold it off a little bit. We did have an initial real nice breakout here. I took a pretty decent swing trade on it. Sold out at this resistance line, which was the right thing to do, as we got a bit of a pullback here and then more of a sell-off here. I then entered another swing trade to capitalize back on a move this side. That's still open, primarily because the Bitcoin sell-off has pulled this one down with it. Price for CleanSpark is still hanging on to this volume shelf as best it can. I wouldn't want to see it break down below this, because this is a huge air gap here for some resistance down at the $10 range. I mean, if we ever got down to that range, I would probably consider liquidating some positions that weren't doing too much in the short term, just so I could get more in on that. Chart wise, RSI is pretty flat. I think if we did get a sell-off, we would get a death cross here. I'm pretty sure the Bitcoin selling is done, judging from the news that I've seen that Germany isn't going to sell anymore, but we'll see. MACD flow is flat as well there. If we look on the weekly, this volume shelf is huge. It's going to be really tough to break to the downside on this one, because every time it gets to this level, people want to snap it up. It is an insane deal right now. I'm pretty overweight in this one, I think. I haven't checked today because I've been out this weekend, but institutions really like it still. Retailers crept in a little bit, so I'd like to see a move to the upside to wash those back out. And the bank flow, I'd really like to see some bullish on there to get us, in a good position over this volume shelf. Target-wise, I don't really want to take any trims until we get to this 30-35 area. That could change. It always depends on crypto. You can't just look at this chart and figure out your CleanSpark targets without considering where Bitcoin is in its cycle. But we'll talk about that next after I've had a look at the options chain for this one. Just like we saw on the technical chart here, we've got a huge support here. We did break below it, but we snapped straight back over it, which I really like. There's a lot more resistance here, giving us a lot more range boundy targets, but glad to see they are in bullish territory. There's not too much going on here. Obviously, one thing to bear in mind with miners and their options interest is you can't really go long dated on this, because the current long time frame options contracts that are out there, they're going to be past the peak of the cycle. Yes, it looks like the cycle peak's going to be pushed a little bit further back than it normally is, but we're not looking at 1 and 2 year peaks here. We can probably have a little look slightly in the future. We see a lot more bullish sentiment creeping in here, which is great to see. Probably we could go through each month and have a look to see where people are expecting to see some decline in the prices here, but that'll be another video, I think. Last up, we've got Bitcoin. We did have a bit of a sell-off, of course, from the Germans selling a load of their confiscated coins. I did talk more about that on my news video and the news page on my website if you want to go check that out. It did give us a bit of a drop down towards this blue trend line. Obviously, we didn't quite reach it, but it did get us pretty close. That strong wick there tells me there's a lot of people interested in buying it at these prices. I actually bought quite a bit at that level, as well as Ethereum and Sol. Sol had a much nicer whip back up though. I buy every week, but since we've been below this bull market band, I've doubled that up and I've started buying twice a week. We are in this really nice trend here. The only thing that this drop means to me is that I bought it at a 28% discount. Top to bottom, we can check that. Yes, just under 28% there. It's nice to note as well that that size drop isn't that unheard of in the Bitcoin cycle, so nothing to panic about there. Other than that, we can take a look at the weekly. We can see here not too much change. It did get a little bit overbought by the looks of it at the top here. Not to worry, that's most likely cooled off now. We've been slammed back down. But the main thing I like about the weekly chart, this is a very nice flag coming here, a massive pole. I'm still incredibly bullish on the future of Bitcoin, and I think any price at any point below this high is a great entry for anyone that's not already got a position in it. Last but not least, I just want to remind everyone that there's a more detailed write-up of the chart analysis on my website, thecraftytrader.com. On there you'll find more in depth on the daily, the weekly timeframes, and the adding and trimming plan that I have going forward, as well as any swing trades I'm in and my plan on those, with a little bit more on options. If you could give this video a like, share and subscribe to my channel, that'd be great. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed it.
That's ISO. Rack it up, I got a bit of the bank to make me a safe house. Shake it up, she got her hands on her knees and she bringing a cake.